Hello everybody, we're here again. Now that we've looked at the different digital marketing channels, let's see how you could harness them to enter a new market. It's tempting to take your domestic digital strategy and apply it to a new market, but as we've already discussed, there's likely localization that needs to take place. This process will impact both the kind of content you will share, how you'll share it, and the messages it will contain, and the platform you will use to share it with. That's why researching a new market is so important. With the tools available today, you can do research each channel's performance and then decide where you should put most of your efforts. We'll go through the same marketing channels as before and see how you can adapt SEO, social media, content, email, and advertising. Search engine optimization. Search engines are not humans, and if you don't tell them, they don't know what you're trying to target and a specific country. That's your job. You need to guide search engine crawlers to new countries or language-specific content to index your content for more than one region. And remember, Google is not the top search engine in every country. In Japan, Google's used about 57% of the time. And again, that's tailed only by none other than Yahoo. Remember them? Now, in Russia, Yandex beats Google by 24%. And in China, as you know, Baidu dominates the market. So make sure your strategy is built knowing what search engines are more popular for your new market. Now back to SEO. The first thing you'll need to do is decide your website structure. A lot of companies ask me about this. Should I have a .com all over the globe? Should I have subdomains, etc.? So let's try to break it down. The three main choices are country code top-level domains, or CCTLDs, subdomains, and subdirectories. CCTLDs require that you buy a country code domain. For example, that would be hello.fr in France. This is the easiest way to signal to search engines what your locations are and to build a trust with the new customers. This option is best if you're only considering having 2 or 3 different domains, but it also spreads out your SEO juice, as Kylie calls it, from Revolve, and you'll see that in one of the interviews we found in this module. The next option is subdomains, which means using a generic top-level domain like a GTLD. Basically, you create a specific subdomain for a specific language, like fr.hello.com. Subdomains are easy to set up, and they send the right geo-targeting signals to the search engines. This is a growing trend, which even Revolve.com employs across the globe. In this case, you use a GTLD with a country or language subdirectory. For example, www.hello.com/fr. This option is the best if you're trying to sell in a country like Switzerland or Canada where more than one language is used. It doesn't send a strong message to search engines on your location, but you can get around that by using, for example, a Bing Webmaster Tool or Google Search Console to build citations in each subdirectory. I know it gets complicated, and of course there's lots of things out there to figure this out, and you can do lots of searches. We're not going to go deep into the technical parts of this, but when a country only has one language, you can simply use 2 letters in the directory to identify the country. In countries with multiple official languages, you can use what we call a locale, a code like EN-CA for English in Canada. The idea here is to make sure your website reflects your new international capacity. Now, another important aspect of SEO is keywords. Instead of trying to translate your existing keywords, you should start another research altogether. Start with competitors, or use some of the tools listed in our material. The goal is to come up with a list of terms that you can then expand and test. Use keyword planners or tools like Google AdWords Keyword Planner, Bing Ads Keyword Planner, Yandex Keyword Statistics, or Baidu Index. And yes, you should do the research on the search engine in the given market where your audience is going to be located. Keywords will change from an engine to another. Special SEO hack. In some markets, in emerging markets, there's a lot less competition for keywords, so you might find better ROI in your spending in those markets than, for example, your home market. Now, before we jump to social media, a quick word on link building. As mentioned in the previous video, link building is essential. Having your website linked to by other trustworthy websites will help you get better visibility, build trust, drive relevant traffic, and promote your new international website. Don't hesitate to contact local influencers or create relationships with local shops to convince them to share some of your site pages on their blogs or their website. Social media. Social media is a core pillar of your digital strategy. Whether you're selling B2B or B2C, Putting out content and engaging with users across multiple platforms and geographies allows you to have a finger on the pulse of your audience. Granted, it can take time and money to manage, so make sure you cut down on your investment by determining which platforms are specifically being used by the audiences in the markets you're looking to target. The most common social media platforms are Facebook and Instagram. You've heard of them. LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, WhatsApp, TikTok, WeChat, Line, Viber. Woo! There are more than 60 social media platforms in existence today. I'm confident neither of us can name half of them. Hence, the importance of doing your research. Facebook is one of the most popular platforms worldwide in terms of active users. But in some countries, Facebook barely makes it to second place. And I'm not just talking about China, where WeChat is dominant. In Russia, for example, VK is by far more popular, and WhatsApp is great for LATAM, owned by Facebook, but we're not going to mince words here. So after you've done your research and know more precisely what platforms you should use, the next decision you'll need to make is whether you want to create a new profile for every country or use your own international profile. Having one profile per market usually ensures better engagement, but it requires a lot more time and can quickly become complex to manage. You'll have less concentrated SEO juice, as we talked about, to leverage, and your data is decentralized across different regions. If you decide to go for one profile in different languages, you'll have something easier to manage, require fewer resources for content creation, but users could get confused with posts happening in multiple languages on the same channel. You'll hear from Greg from Mute 6 in a separate expert interview about crafting visual content that resonates with minimal text overlays, which means minimal localization. Before you make the decision, look at your target audiences and your capabilities and make sure you can update all the platforms regularly. You don't want to abandon your audience after you spent time building it because you lost track of all the content coming in. Influencers. Cross-border influencer marketing. If you decide to do business with local influencers, make sure you check the strength of their relationships with their followers. You want someone who really speaks to them, someone who has credibility, reach, and a sales mindset without the salesy persona. Now that's sometimes hard to figure out, especially in a native language. So find a native speaker to watch some of their posts and give you a sense of their vibe. Instagram influencer marketing is a market worth about $3 billion right now, probably rising. And in many markets, it's a fully professionalized and transactional world with influencers walking around with price sheets in their back pockets. Now, be careful not to focus too hard on the numbers at first. In general, an influencer's audience size is inversely proportionate to their level of engagement and therefore their conversion to sales. Paying the influencer with the most views doesn't necessarily translate into sales. Sometimes the 7th influencer on the list that the agency just gave you has a stronger bond with your audience and a better alignment with your product and brand. She might be the right person to grow with you in a given market. Now, macro influencers are great for awareness, but I choose alignment and authenticity over audience size any day when it comes to conversion. Check out the video in this module on Paris Hilton Pro DNA and whether her 44 million followers can actually convert to sales. And that brings up a thought around regional influencers. Countries are influencers as well. If you want to drive skincare sales in China, determine which regional countries are seen as leaders in this space. Korean pop music and soap operas, along with a dash of advanced skincare R&D, have helped position them as regional leaders. So handsome, such good skin. So you might even launch a product in Korea, irrespective of any ROI, just to drive sales throughout the rest of Asia. Okay, content marketing. Content is strongly linked with your social media platform strategy. The platform you choose to post on will determine what content format you need to create, from copy length to format vertical or horizontal for videos, infographics, and more. Content consumers are increasingly spoiled by native formatting. That means if you choose to focus on Instagram or TikTok and then port your content to horizontal viewed Facebook or LinkedIn, those black borders or blurred side edges may turn people off because it says to them, you aren't seriously committed to this native platform that I love. If you have a massive amount of marketing spend, I think we've laid out a pretty good roadmap for things that you should consider localizing your content. But let's say you're one of the few that did not buy Amazon stock 10 years ago and you actually have to work for a living. So let's talk about some of the scrappy ways that you can reduce your efforts and expenses early on when creating a global content footprint. Create content that's visual and does not require text to explain your product attributes. This means you can lay a few language prompts over your content without having to translate voiceover or produce unique video per each market. Next, create content focused on global tribes. As we talked about earlier, this means the more you invest in defining that tribe, the less you need to adapt your marketing message because it will speak to a similar consumer pain point regardless of what language they're speaking in. If you have a brand ambassador, friends, or distributors in different markets around the world, create a centralized folder or a bucket for them to dump their content into, or have an intern aggregate your content. This will help you create a content war chest that can be repurposed from one market to another market. A lot of brands miss this. Consumers are globally aware. So videos from a launch event in Milan during a Cosmoprof might be the most powerful content for driving audiences in Japan. So having content in Korea leak into your Chinese social media content ecosystem might be a good thing and a better spend for initial awareness building than localizing some content into Chinese yourself. If you're writing a blog, approach it with the new global consumer in mind. This means you might only need to translate some of your articles, but you can still use the new list of relevant keywords and then add a paragraph or two that covers new basic topics that are specific to the target audience, but the majority of that is repurposed. Blame Google or Baidu. Remember, most consumers have access to translators for sites that don't offer their own language. They aren't great, but they cover the basics. And when these machine learning translators get it wrong, your visitors blame them for sucking, not you. Email marketing. As with all other channels we looked at, customer behaviors regarding email change greatly from country to country. Email is a tool more prevalent in some countries, and in others, subscribers won't look at their inbox for days. In the UK, for example, a 24-hour email campaign will get good results, whereas the same campaign may expire before consumers in Asia even see it coming. Now, language correspondence in emails is much more nuanced than general translation. We've gotten a bunch of data in from some of our search companies and some of our tech companies, so I'm going to share it with you. Again, these are generalizations, but they are based to some degree in data. For example, countries like Russia, India, or Japan might prefer hearing from a group rather than a person saying from I. So we look forward to versus I look forward to. But the opposite is shown to be more effective in France or the US. Emails targeting audiences in Norway or the UK should always make sure to support any facts with evidence. For Belgium and Germany, make sure you're consistent in your wording and that you have long and clear product or service descriptions, since they tend to be more cautious before trusting a new company. On the other hand, if you're targeting people in Australia or Sweden, make sure your copy's fun and casual, engaging, as they may prefer more relaxed relationships. Of course, these are generalizations, and if you're approaching engineers clubs in Sweden, maybe they want, maybe they don't want to be fun and casual. I don't know. It obviously depends on your tribe, let's say. Now, if you're approaching the engineers club in Sweden, I don't know. Maybe they don't like fun and casual. Again, generalizations, you need to know your tribe. Another important aspect of cross-border email marketing, as well as social posting, is time zones. You need to take into account when your audience will be receiving your emails, especially from time-sensitive copy like 24-hour sales. Work hours and holidays should also be taken into account. Some countries in the Middle East, for example, don't have Monday to Friday work weeks, but will instead work from Sunday to Thursday. A lot of you already know this, but make sure the people putting your campaigns into calendars and launching them multiple months in advance are paying attention to that. As for holidays, Norwegians, for example, will take 3-week vacations in July, while Germans usually take vacations in August. So I'm with my Spanish friends. If you don't take time to look these up, you might end up sending emails and launching digital campaigns and spending money into the digital abyss. Advertising, at last. Advertising. When you do market research, make sure you know which search engines are used in your new market. Bing and Yahoo are actually popular in countries. Maybe not more so than Google, but you may find more ROI advertising on those platforms than perhaps a Google, where their competition is a little bit more fierce. Now, here's another interesting hack. I beg you to actually go check it out because I'm not sure it's true, but I've heard of companies advertising on Google in China. Yes, China, because no one else is. And granted, China has done a huge job in clamping down on VPNs, but the principal out-of-the-box strategy is worth noting that the consumers that are on VPNs in China are more prone to be internationally engaging and probably open to products like yours. The good news is, in terms of search engine advertising, they all pretty much work the same. So once you've learned how to advertise on one platform, it won't be too long before you get comfortable with another. Another kind of advertising worth considering is advertising on websites or native advertising. BuzzFeed and Dodo, for example, produce a lot of content that then get published on social media platforms. And they help brands do the same by allowing them to advertise on their website. This could be a great way to build awareness in a new country. If during your research you discover that Japanese really love a specific website or platform, look at advertising possibilities on that specific website. Using a well-known, respected website will help you build trust with an audience that doesn't know you yet. In fact, check out our resources section to use tools like Basis and The Trade Desk, StackAdapt, Choozle, AdRule, or Nativo, which all help you find potential advertising possibilities. Again, social media platforms are much more efficient in targeting your specific markets. Using platforms like Facebook will allow you to reach a lot of different demographics in a lot of different countries based on the similar data you have for your audiences in your home market. As with email, advertising is highly regulated. You'll need to make sure your ads are compliant with local laws. In some countries, for example, it's strictly prohibited to advertise for alcohol or prescription medicines. And others, you can't advertise perceived medical benefits or even use words like great or the best to describe your products. Before we go, a quick word about mobile. Mobile is widely used in countries like Spain or China, where most online purchases are happening there. So no matter what decision you take regarding marketing and what platforms or advertising campaigns you build, everything should be made equally accessible on desktop and mobile. Okay, that's it for this video. Check out more, do more activities, finish the badge, get that knowledge, get that stuff going. All right, we'll see you soon.